everyone, welcome back to the Real American Sport Podcast. I'm your host, Harvey Holcomb. I'm so excited I get to bring on one of my closest friends to talk Lions football. I hope you enjoy. Now on to Josiah. Hey guys, welcoming on to the podcast, I have my friend Josiah, who's been a lifelong Lions fan. Josiah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Josiah, I've been actually a Lions fan. I'd like to claim lifetime, but I didn't actually love them until probably right before the Patricia years.
What a bad time to love them.
Yeah, it really tests your patience and your loyalty to a team. But I grew up in Michigan, so Michigan fan. Go Blue, national championship.
Yeah,
can't be crying about that. But yeah, I am a big fan of most of Detroit sports except for the Pistons right now because they are garbage.
They are straight trash.
But yeah, so I became a fan of the Lions when I moved to Florida, actually, which is kind of ironic. I moved in with my cousin and my uncle for my senior year of high school, and they were big fans. They grew up in Michigan, and basically they would watch every Sunday. And growing up, I was not very. I didn't really love sports. That wasn't my thing. But sitting there every Sunday with them, watching them, I started to drink the Kool-Aid, as they call it, and since then I've just been on board, and it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. I mean, it's been tough, but the last couple of years has been fun to see them turn it around, and hopefully next year go for the full thing.
Awesome. Yeah, so Josiah and last week we had Chris. They're going to be the two that are coming onto the show a good amount. So I just want you to get to know them to begin the episode so you kind of know what their fandom is and everything like that. Just a couple more questions for you, just so you know. We talked about it last week with Chris, but does Dan Campbell's fourth down antics scare you? I mean, is that something that you're like, yes, this is the greatest thing ever? It's like every time he does it, you have like a mini heart attack.
They don't scare me anymore. It's almost like you become numb to it. So you're like, oh we're like 4th and 10 and we're in scoring range. Like, it's just kind of like put your diaper on and go for it, you know?
Yeah, you just got to put your diaper on.
You're standing up by the TV and you're like, game's on the line, and I think it's like, if you watch Dan Campbell's press conferences and even Jared Goff, they say Dan trusts them to go out there and execute, and I think that speaks volumes about the locker room and the trust that they have in the team to execute. And I personally love it because when I play Madden, I always go for it on 4th. You never punt.
That's fair. We do have that as a thing. The last one I'll talk about, I kind of like this question. Outside of the major Lions, Barry Sanders, Matthew Stafford, Calvin Johnson, who's your favorite Lions player of all time? Like for me, whatever reason, it's Jason Kabinda, the most random dude. But who for you who's your favorite Lion of all time?
Well, I can't really say outside of those three, but for me, it's Stafford. Mainly because of how much he kind of went through, and he's still stuck around even through trash years and even through the Patricia years. I mean, he never said anything bad about Patricia, even though I think the media was like trying to
get
hook him in that way.
Right.
And he's just never had a bad thing to say about the Lions, even though I'm sure he's had his own thoughts and feelings about playing on that team in the tough years. He's a tough player, and you can't take that away from him. Even now, when he's playing for the Rams, he's still. I mean, even that playoff game, he was getting blasted by all those players on the Detroit Lions line, and he still got up, still played like he was playing against the Browns in that one. The Browns in that ending. So I respect
favorite
him.
Sound clip ever.
Yeah,
him in that game.
I just respect the guy a lot. Glad he got his, and always root for him, except for when he's playing the Lions.
Man, how do you feel that the Lions single-handedly made Aaron Donald retire? We made him retire. That's what he said.
Yeah, I pretty happy about that. I mean, Aaron Donald, he's one of the best to ever do it, and to say that the Lions put him in his grave in the NFL, it's a pretty big accolade for the team.
Actually, it's kind of funny because if you look at his career and Barry Sanders' career, they have so many similar things. Like they both played every season that they played, which was 10 years. Every year, they made the All-Pro team. Mm-hmm. And Barry Sanders did the same thing. So him and Aaron Donald had the same thing. They're the only two players in NFL history to have every single season that they played, they made an All-Pro. So, I mean, that's elite. Congrats to Aaron Donald on the Hall of Fame career. I'm excited to see you in Canton. I'm excited for one day when my kids say, how good was Aaron Donald? That picture of all 4 Dolphins linemen blocking him at once is exact proof of how good this guy was. But let's get started. For the reason you're here, we're talking about the Lions. The first part I wanted to bring up was that Jalen Reeves-Maybin is the NFLPA president. I mean, that's super cool. It just shows that he's not only a good player, but a well-respected player. What do you think it means for the Lions?
Like we were talking about earlier before we started, I think it speaks volumes about the culture and who's in that locker room to have somebody who, whether you respect it or disrespect the position a lot, but he's a special teamer. I mean, they throw him in at everything, but he's listed as a special teamer, and to have somebody who plays only a portion of the game be the highest level of that organization is kind of huge. It's impactful, and hats off to that guy for always putting in the work, even though his position's looked over all the time.
And there's something funny about him because when you think of special teamer, you think of guys that are just out there on the punts. I mean, in that playoff run you guys had last year, I felt like his name was popping up everywhere. Like it was just he would make a play. He could be out in the field for like 3 snaps, and all 3 of those snaps he was in the tackle, he was in the breakup, he was in whatever was happening. So it's really cool to have an awesome special teamer like that. If you don't watch the Lions, you have zero idea who this guy is, and you see the contract, you're like, I have zero idea who this guy is. But to be the NFLPA president, that's, unbelievable credit to him.
Yeah, if you look at the whole season last year, near the end when the Lions had some regrouping to do to get that spot in the NFC North, I mean, he really tore it up. I mean, they threw him in at linebacker, he was making plays. I mean, you wanted him to play the whole game because he was an impact player, and clearly he's on the field, he's making impact, and off the field, he's making impact. So that's someone you want in your locker room, and so glad we're keeping him and paying the guy.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. Talking about paying him, let's talk about some other Lions that got paid. We bring back Donovan Peoples-Jones on a 1-year, up to $2 million contract. Not a big signing. Obviously traded for him last year. He is a big body player. I'd like to see him get a little more snaps, see if we can get something going with him. He really didn't do anything. You got the highlight plays in Cleveland that he had, but he really never was a major factor in Cleveland. You got the long snapper, Scott Daly. Long snappers are...
You need them.
Yeah, you need them. They're normally rated like a 30 in Madden, so you cut them half the time, so you never notice them. Scott Daly's one of the better punters. I think he won the job maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and he's been really solid for you guys. And then the last one that they re-signed is Khalil Dorsey, who is a solid corner. I mean, he's not the number 1 dude, not even the number 2, but he is a solid corner to bring back for a team that was looking to make the corner room much better. Right. But let's get to the big part of the Lions offseason so far. Me and Chris talked last week about the major signings that you had there, but we get to talk about 2 that I absolutely love. First is DJ Reader, the D lineman, and then you got Kevin Zeitler, who, as a Giants fan, he played for us. I absolutely love Kevin Zeitler. Yeah. Tell me kind of your first thought process when you saw, hey, we're signing DJ Reader.
When I was on Twitter, or X now, I'm reading that DJ Reader's going to Detroit, and he's going to go do all this. They're going to meet with them, have a meeting. I was like, there's no way they're letting him leave. But to me, that's like the biggest signing, obviously. Money talks, obviously, because they're paying him the most out of everybody. Having the number one run defense and only adding him, another big body with next to Aleem McNeil, I mean, build on your strengths, obviously, and actually correct those weaknesses. But, I mean, I feel bad for the running backs that are going up the middle because they're going to have a tough time getting through those guys. I mean, it's going to be a brick wall. It's tough to lose Jonah Jackson, but I think bringing Kevin Zeitler on for, I think, what was it, $6 million?
Yeah,
for a
it
one-year
wasn't
deal.
very much.
Almost like a prove-it deal in some capacity. It seemed like that was the right move as far as the cap space because I think they are looking to extend Panay and Amon-Ra, and obviously you have to extend Goff based on his play the last couple of years. So I think Brad Holmes is cooking, as they say.
I'll tell you why I really like Kevin Zeitler. I'm an offensive line guy. I really like watching film. Funny that I'm a Giants fan because we have terrible offensive line play. But if you watch Jonah, he was a great run blocker. Don't get me wrong, great.
Yep.
He was a terrible pass blocker, man. I just don't get it. Like how good you can be. You know, he goes out and he gets that $51 million deal with the Rams. You know, and obviously free agency this year was crazy because we had the $30 million up in salary cap. So getting someone like DJ Reader for $21 million as an example, that is a steal. I mean, this dude, he can pass rush up the middle too. Where Aleem McNeil didn't have that as much, he is definitely more of a run stopper, and DJ Reader kind of gets to have a little more free reign on trying to get to the quarterback. But man, that Kevin Zeitler move, when I saw it, I remember I screenshotted that. I sent it to you. I sent it to Chris. I'm like, this is awesome. This is the coolest thing because he's a great run blocker. He's an even better pass blocker. He's a Pro Bowler, and I think that the Ravens are going to regret letting him go. You see the age. It's a 1-year deal. But it made it so you guys are building a team. So this was the part that I was texting you about. What the Lions have done is so genius. The Lions, they could go into the season right now and be seen as good. They haven't lost a position. All these teams, they wait till free agency to refill this position. And so free agency, they see it as acquiring players. The Lions treat it as, let's build this team. Let's build the team. Not acquire players, build a team. And I know that sounds funny because we think that's what free agency always is you're acquiring players to build your team. No, the Lions said, all right, here's our worst parts. We're bad at corner. They go and they trade for Carlton Davis. They bring in Amik Robertson. Mm-hmm. The next one, they're like, our D-line could use a little depth. They bring in DJ Reader. Guard, we could use some help because Jonah's leaving. They bring in Kevin Zeitler.
Yep.
They make it so you don't have to go into the draft and go, I need this player, so we either reach for him or, we do something dumb. And now it allows you to go into the draft and say, hey, let's get the best player available. And even if that means tackle, to protect Taylor Decker 2 years down the road, you're allowed to do that now because you don't have to take somebody to make your team be successful. It allows you to build, and that's what the elite good teams do. They always get to keep adding guys that, they can sit for a year or they can play limited snaps and they learn behind the good players. And so once that older player gets an older when he gets older and his deal's running out, they're like, all right, we can let him go.
Yep.
Instead of saying, oh no, we're going to run into such an issue.
Yep.
Another one that I really like, the Lions bring him in. No one knows who this guy is, but it's the D lineman, Matthew Betts. He was a Canadian guy. He grew up in Canada. He was like the number one recruit coming out of Canada. Went to college in Canada. Was like one, I think, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year in Canada. Gets drafted 3rd overall in the CFL. He did sign to the Bears and was cut. He was like one of the last guys cut, but the Bears were impressed with him. And instead of taking a practice squad deal, he goes to the CFL. The first 2 years, he was kind of a bust. He wasn't getting a ton of playing time. He gets traded. He has 18 sacks last year, man. 18. Crazy. That's elite no matter what league you're in. Those are professional athletes, So he's coming in. He may never pan out. He might get cut, but those are the types of guys the Lions like. Yeah. It's awesome.
It's almost like when he's going to play in the CFL, I mean, it's like a revenge tour almost. Like, no, I can play with you boys, and I'm going to show you, And like I said before, I mean, Brad Holmes knows how to build a team, as you can see. I mean, everyone kind of mocked them for their draft last year, but the guys that they got were all impact players. The first 4, all impact players. And even the last four of the draft, I mean, they're some work, but they're still making plays.
Yeah, and I mean, it allows... Brad Holmes does not do what everyone else does. They draft a running back at 12 when they already just signed a running back. And they're like, what are you doing? He might draft safety in the last round, and you're like, that was kind of a reach. And it's like, no, Brad Holmes gets to pick who he likes because he isn't forced to taking an edge rusher or to taking a corner. Now, would I like for the Lions to take corner? I think I would. But if one's not there, you don't have to reach for the next one.
Right.
But the Lions still have about $34.5 million in cap space going into week 2, which is unbelievable. I think the Kevin Zeitler dealing did change that number a little bit. I think it's like 29-30 now.
Like that.
But looking at some guys that are still in free agency that I'm surprised that they're still in free agency that I think would be good for the Lions, it's going to really be, for me, a lot of corners.
Mm-hmm.
You got guys like Adoree Jackson, though. He's a good punt returner, so I mean, you won't really use him for that. But he's a solid corner. He got left on an island with Wink Martindale in New York, but he's a solid guy that if you don't make him be on an island by himself, he is going to be unbelievable for you. He's still 28, does have some injury issues though. That's the only thing I worry about with him. I think he would be a good guy to bring in, even like a Christian Fulton, who, same deal, injury problem, but he's 26 years old. I mean, it's a perfect example. And then you look at guys like Tre'Davious White and Xavier Howard. They're older guys. You're talking about bringing them in for a 1 or 2 year deal. They're going to be more leadership to your younger corner room. But is there someone that you really want them to go for? Is it like, yes, go for corner and that's the last thing we really need to do? Or is it like, what are you looking for?
I think if they go for a corner, I think it's in the draft. It's my take on it. I look at free agency and I almost want them to get another receiver, a big body receiver. I mean, our receiver room is stacked already, but I think you need someone else to go out there and take some pressure off of Amon-Ra. And I think J-Mo's going to have a breakout season.
Yeah, definitely.
A full season of J-Mo is what I think everyone's looking for. I would say Tyler Boyd all day. I mean, he's proven himself with the Bengals, right? The Bengals?
Yeah, he was with the Bengals. He was the 3 for the Bengals.
So, I mean, you stack that room, and even if they were to go get one of the better receivers in the draft, I don't know if there's anyone that's out there in free agency that I'm like, oh, I would love them on the team. I mean, I think I trust Brad and his picks in the draft to be like, I don't think we need somebody that's like, Tyler Boyd, he's 29, he's getting older. Like, do we put some money on him, or do we just trust the process that we've been rolling with?
And you just bring back the Roach.
Bring
back the Roach.
100% you bring back the Roach. I know he didn't have that great a game in that loss to the Niners, but you look at him with the Lions in the last 3 years, he's always been reliable. I mean, him and Amon-Ra, you throw it to them, they're catching that ball. And so watching that Niners game was like, what are we doing? Like, where are you at, man? Like, this is unlike you. But I don't think that you flip on him immediately just because you lose one game. I mean, no one really expected the Lions to get as far as they did. And the Rams game, he was money the whole game. He saved that game.
It was a revenge game, so that does make a difference.
Maybe he left it all out on at Ford Field and then didn't bring it with him to San Fran. But I think there's a lot of names on the list that we have to bring back. Clearly, you bring back Kabinda.
Without question, you have to bring back Kabinda.
Yeah,
he has the greatest hands down moment on any TV show I've ever seen.
Let's be real. That was the greatest Hard Knocks. I mean, I'm biased, but I mean, I personally would run through a wall for Dan, and I think a lot of people would say that. But he knows how to lead a team and fire him up and get him going, and that's all. I mean, that's all you can really ask for in a coach, a good leader, and he's going to tell you how it is. And
when you look at that group of the unsigned guys that were on the team last year, you got guys like Nate Sudfeld who you could bring back easily just as kind of like QB3 because you did have Teddy retire. You got Hendon Hooker, obviously, kind of seen as the 2, even potentially the future of the Rams, of the the future of the Lions.
Right.
I don't see it as much that way. I know Lions fans are high on him. He was a 5th-round pick, obviously, through the injury, but we aren't talking about, it's like you got Aaron Rodgers who slid down. But he is serviceable. And if he had some type of career like Tyrod Taylor, that's seen as an unbelievable success. But I think bringing someone like Nate Sudfeld back, who is not a starting caliber quarterback, and no one expects him to be, but he knows that Lions offense at least, bring him onto the practice squad. For whatever reason somebody does get hurt, you can bring him on there. Right. You look at even people just kind of like Charles Harris who really never play. They're just kind of older guys that are leaders in the locker room.
Yeah, I think with Sudfeld, I think it's more of you bring back knowledge rather than play.
Right.
Just like I know when they signed Teddy, they were saying, yeah, he's going to be a good backup, but a lot of it, they're just mining for gold in his mind because he's played on so many different offenses and so many different teams. I mean, yeah, he didn't really break out as a starting quarterback. I think it was the Vikings signed him, and it kind of...
Yeah, the Vikings drafted him, and he played well, and then he had one of the worst injuries I've ever seen.
Right, and it seemed like he never really came back from that to be that full-time player, but sometimes it's not just about the play, it's about what you bring to the table in your head, and I know that Romeo Carr won't be coming back. He just retired. He announced that a couple of days ago, so... a little bit of a depth loss, but I think like I said, with Brad Holmes can do in free agency and in the draft, it's like I'm not, as a fan, concerned about losing some of these guys because I think they look for guys in a different light. It's not just their production is high, but also where they're at in their mental space about if they're going to grind or not. Because you look at Chase Young. Outstanding player, but there's always those reports of, he's not going 100% every time,
Right.
And
Lions don't take those guys. They just won't.
Yeah, and I think that's something like Hutch, who's a Michigan man. He's full speed every time. It's like he never comes off the field. He's a high motor player, and I think he's the standard of what a Lion is under the Holmes and Campbell leadership. Mm-hmm. Guys like that. Everybody that they have drafted, even Panay, he's probably the best player on the team. He's an offensive tackle, but I think he's the highest rated offensive tackle in the league right now.
I think it was the highest rated pass blocking tackle according to PFF.
Right, but
out of the young guys, he's I think easily the best, because you look at guys like Trent Williams. He's just been doing it for so long. It's it's hard to say yes, he's better than Trent Williams just because Trent Williams has done it for 10 years. Panay is awesome, and he needs to get extended. He'll be the highest paid tackle. He should be the highest paid tackle in the league.
Yeah, 100%.
But when you look at the Lions depth chart right now, if the season starts, you're like, we are fine. We're good.
100%.
The only weakness when you look at that group, honestly, for me, is that third wide receiver spot. Because right now you got Khalif Raymond. And don't get me wrong, I like Khalif Raymond, and he's solid, but not as a wide receiver you trust throwing passes to on a regular basis. Obviously, you can talk about potentially Donovan Peoples-Jones in there.
Yeah,
I think there needs to be another guy. And I agree with you, the big body receiver, that has to be the spot. Right. Because Amon-Ra is kind of more of a slot guy, honestly. He's the one receiver, but he is more of a slot type of player. Right. And then you have Jamison Williams, who is unbelievably fast. Has to work on that route running a little bit. But you saw the flashes of potential. I remember we went and saw the Tampa Bay Bucks play the Lions right here in Tampa. And he had that big catch. That was and that's what he could be. He either has 12 yards or he has 110. Yeah. I feel like there's no real middle ground. If he can start having more of those 50-yard games instead of 12, it works on the route running. And that's what I told you from the beginning. It works on the route running. But I think he's going to take that next step. So let's get that big body guy, or even a guy that's just like a Keenan Allen type of player where it's they just happen to be open. They're not more athletic than anyone. They're not bigger than everyone. They're just, for whatever reason, they have great feet and they have great hands. So either big body or one of those types of guys.
Yeah, and I think you get that player, and it takes pressure off of both Amon-Ra and J-Mo, because they're at to cover the big guy, because you let him go, he's going to score.
Exactly.
And then you kind of alleviate some pressure off of those two guys to make the big plays. And, there's give and take, but at the end of the day, it is receiver for me is adding someone in there to elevate the offense, even though it's pretty high up there already.
Yeah, it's tough to say, like, oh, what's the worst weakness you have? Oh, third string receiver. That's dang good, man. Most teams don't even have a one. Let me tell you, as a Giants fan, we've had Darius Slayton as the one, or Kenny Galladay.
Kenny.
But we don't even have a one. Y'all are talking about we need a three. So Lions are in such a good place, especially on offense. On defense, you do have a couple spots where you can improve more, but we're still talking you need a little bit of corner because you do have Carlton Davis and you have Emmanuel Mosley and stuff like that.
Right.
We're going to talk about Cameron Sutton here in a minute, but otherwise, you got Marcus Davenport. You can use another edge rusher because Marcus Davenport hasn't proven to be some elite guy. Right. I do think he's an upgrade for you guys.
For sure.
Especially when what he was supposed to be. You watched him coming out of college. Your linebacker room's awesome. I love Anzalone and his hair. I call him Thor at this point. He's awesome. You could use maybe a linebacker 3, but I think, honestly, corner is the one position y'all need to try and upgrade on, and you've already done the upgrading for it.
Right. Speaking of Anzalone, the best are the Fanzalones that wear the blonde wigs every game. Those guys, that's hilarious. I would not be surprised if the Lions went edge in the draft for the first round. Just to, the Lions are already pretty stocked, but I think you get someone else that's got a little bit more speed, almost. No one's going to be Hutch, but take some press.
The second overall pick.
You're right. And but with that line, the upgraded line, I think it takes some pressure off of Hutch to make those sacks. I know he's probably high up there on QB pressures, which I know in a bunch of interviews he said he kind of looks at those as greater than an actual sack, but he's a stud, but I think you take some pressure off him and you let him. Anybody can go to work on that line after you take some pressure off of Hutch, because everyone's looking for Hutch to guard him.
When adding that second D tackle and DJ Rader, it's going to make it so when you have the double team on the side, you're talking about you have to have your center stop Aleem McNeil and you have to have your guard stop DJ Rader, and you're putting them in one-on-one situations, because if you take that guard and hit Aleem, now you have a one-on-one, which is what we want, coming for for Hutchinson. Obviously, I think that they have Hutch and they'll probably switch him on sides, whichever side has the weaker tackle.
Right.
Especially if they draft someone a little younger like Chop Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have Chop Robinson kind of being like the decoy in a way.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's going to be a bit more speed, where Aiden Hutchinson, Waluigi. Waluigi,
you can't take that out of your mind after this.
Never. I saw it. So do not look up that Aiden Hutchinson runs like Waluigi. It's the worst thing, because now I only see
look it up because it's hilarious.
I ruined my whole day when I saw that, because I can't see him any other way. And then just looking at special teams, Jack Fox is obviously an unbelievable punter. It'd be nicer to have a little bit better kicker. Bagley's okay. You did just re-sign him, but it would be nice to try and upgrade there too.
I think that's another spot in the draft that
first overall kicker.
yes, pick 29. But I wouldn't be surprised if they grab someone in the 4th round that's pretty solid in college. He's. I don't know if it was he was pretty solid at the end of the year. But then you would see the Lions, especially in the Dallas game where they're going for the win, and they don't even want to tie it up because they want to end with the ball, right? And that was always been Dan's thing is let's control what we can control and just go out here and win. Right. But they never put him in to make those, even tie it up to go in overtime. And whether that was to stick with the philosophy or if there was some questionable faith in Badgley making that kick.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even if you get another kicker, you put some competition in the room.
Yeah, I mean,
so that the best player is going to get the spot. And
I haven't watched my kicker film yet. For guys coming out of college, Chris had, which impressed me.
Yeah.
I don't think I've really ever paid attention to kicker film.
Yeah.
But he did have a couple guys that he liked, so I'm interested when I start kind of paying attention to that. Once we start getting into like mid-April, I'll probably watch some stuff on kickers there. But I think the rest of the Lions offseason is pretty simple. It won't be anything crazy. You won't see a lot of trades. The only thing that really is affecting this offseason right now, it sucks to talk about, but it's Cam Sutton, man. So you get the news a couple days ago that Cam Sutton is on the run for battery. And now it's turned into aggravated assault, strangulation. And they're trying to say he's on the run. Obviously, the news and stuff, they kind of try and make it seem like it's worse. Right. We personally are not people that judge. We both have we have criminal justice degrees. So we believe in the innocent until proven guilty. Yeah. The news kind of has it the other way where it's like guilty until proven innocent. It does look bad that he's on the run. If he really is on the run, it looks bad because innocent people don't do that.
Well, at the same time, it's in Hillsborough County, and who even knows if he's in town? You never know if he had to go to the facility or this, that, and the other. You never know about these things because there's always two sides to a story, and not to defend any type of wrongdoing that may have occurred, but I think, like you said, it's innocent till proven guilty, and the news always likes to paint things worse than what it is.
And he's never, he came from Pittsburgh. He never had issues before, It sounds bad, when you go and you watch, like, the Kareem Hunt situation, or if you watch, like, Joe Mixon, you saw that. You saw them do it, and now we've had so many things, you're talking like Dak Prescott randomly has, like, these sexual allegations. You haven't heard about it since. Yeah. Because it's almost like it's if, people are just, like, trying to make something happen.
And it's almost like ever since the Deshaun Watson stuff, it's like anybody can say anything, whether true or not, and it's like it's gonna get.
Well, because he's a football player. Because if it was Bob living down the street, no one would care.
Right.
It's because it's a professional athlete. People tend to care, and somebody that has a slight name to him. Right. Cam Sutton obviously isn't like a star by any means, but the worst part about this is if it is true, he's gone. He's not going to be on the Lions anymore because we already know that Dan Campbell loves these guys, and he's literally said it. He loves Sutton. But if this is true, he's going to be gone, and you have to look for another corner because and we're talking business. I know it almost sounds like it's we're talking in a negative standpoint. By no means would we ever say that this is okay, but he did just sign that new deal.
Yeah. I think $10 million was guaranteed this year, which is tough.
And if this turns out to be true, it's voided. I mean, it's and you get $10 million kind of back to the Lions, but I really hope it's not true. And we're as we find things out, we were discussing whether we wanted to say anything about it, but as of now, it doesn't look great because they're trying to say he's on the run. Like you said, he may just be not in the area or something, but no, you never hear like, did he call? Hey, like I'm not there, because they want to kind of twist it to make it seem like professional athlete is trying to kill people.
There's more clicks to have some professional athlete on the run than just saying, oh, there's a warrant out for his arrest.
Right. But going past that, the rest of the free agency really should just kind of be some depth signings. Nothing.
And I think if they do anything more, it's going to be more of those prove it deals.
Yeah.
To come in here on $1 million deal.
You know who I'd like for you guys to try and get, and maybe it's just because he was on the Giants last year. Try and get someone like Isaiah Simmons, man, because like he is uber athletic. People loved him out of the draft. He just hasn't been that guy, terrible in coverage. But, like, bring someone like that in, man, where they're, like, young, athletic, like, and if it doesn't work out, like, oh, no, you spent, like, $1 million on them.
Right. And I think that's kind of their mindset. And ever since Brad has been the GM, you see a lot of these. Even last year, Emmanuel Mosley I think it was $1 million. Come in and prove it.
Yeah, and he played well.
And until he got hurt.
Yeah.
But, and I think they spend a lot of those $1 million deals on injured players that came back from an injury. To see where they're at and see what they can prove and what they bring to the table. But as far as the draft,
who do you like in the first round? Me and Chris talked about a couple guys. Are there anyone that really like? If the if the Lions draft him, you're like, we're good. This is the greatest pick I've ever seen in my whole life. Obviously, like, we're not saying like Lions get like Caleb Williams or something, right. But in a realistic pick of groups, is there someone that you see him and you're like, that's 100% like, I trust Brad Holmes and whatever he does. But if I was the GM and I got to make the selection, who is it that you want?
Okay, so there's two names that come to mind. Both are in the secondary. And especially if the Cam Sutton stuff does kind of fall not in his favor, I think you do go corner at that pick. One, which I might be a little biased, but Mikey Sandersill.
Okay.
I would absolutely love him on that team.
First round?
Absolutely. I think, why not? I think he brings a lot more to the table. You watch the Michigan games, he was on the ball every time. Okay. Every time. He was a ball hawk. And I think he brings the same kind of culture that they're looking for. And a lot of Michigan players that have gone to the Lions have worked out. Graham Glasgow, Michigan guy, just signed another $6 million deal.
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah. And
he was in the Browns. The Browns run everybody.
Yeah, but I'm actually looking forward to see more DPJ in that offense. I think that offense takes some time for some of these players to learn, just because it is very it's a lot of explosive plays, and you have to be on time and where you got to be. And then obviously for the name exclusively Kool-Aid.
He's good though.
Yeah, another one that's a cornerback that's a stud. I'd be happy with either of those. More Mikey than anything, but I think that's just me being biased.
Can we get Cooper DeJean and have a white corner?
I think.
Can we do it?
Absolutely. I think you have. I mean, whoever team grabs him will have the biggest patch that no one will care about on their back. We have a white corner.
Dude, no, but he's good though. Like, it's not like oh, he's a white corner and he's all right. It's like, no, Cooper DeJean is awesome, man. Like, I know a lot of people don't watch Iowa football, but he was fun, man. He made them fun, outside of the white corner part.
Right.
Because everyone's like, we're gonna throw him at safety or whatever. And this dude, I mean, he's athletic. I wish he was in the combine, because he was like the guy I was gonna watch. He turned out to be hurt, so he couldn't do it. But I think that'd be another cool one outside of the guys that we talked about last week. But on last two questions,
all right,
how bad are the Bears? They trade Justin. I think I have a conspiracy theory that they traded Justin Fields for a 6th-round pick, and they waited until St. Patrick's Day because everyone was drunk and they couldn't be upset. Because if it was a regular day, if it was some random Monday, Bears fans would be losing their minds. They were talking about potentially a 2nd-round pick for this guy, and they're like 6th.
Yeah, and I think before that trade, reading on all the rumors and all the things on social media, a lot of teams were only looking at Fields as a secondary quarterback. And I'm not sure if it was the Bears that ruined him, because he saw it come out of Ohio State, and that sucks to say as a Michigan fan, but he
doesn't have the passing accuracy, though, for NFL.
Right, but I mean, he's got his legs, and I don't know if you can always rely on those moving forward. I mean, you get older and you become slower, but the Steelers got a deal, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the Steelers won on a very high end.
Just cut him. He's so bad.
Well, I think that locker room is going to be interesting with those two quarterbacks.
I do think Russell Wilson, if he helps Fields,
right,
will make him awesome.
Russell Wilson's got a great arm.
Yeah, and I mean, Russell Wilson was kind of like the better quarterback, lesser athlete of Fields kind of coming. Because remember, he was like a third-round pick coming from Wisconsin. Like, no one really knew who this guy was, and he won the starting job, where Justin Fields is, super athletic, doesn't really have the, it never hurts to have a mentor who won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's rare.
Yeah. I think the North is actually going to be a tough division next year.
Maybe except for the Vikings.
If the Vikings grab a quarterback.
Trade up to 4 to draft J.J. McCarthy.
Which then I would be a little concerned. That wide receiver room, solid. The Vikings have always had a great receiver room.
Yeah, always. They have Randy Moss. It's crazy.
The Packers still look good.
Do you think that Jordan Love is as good as everyone hyped him up to be? Me and Chris talked about it, and we were kind of on the same boat of I think it was a little bit of being overhyped, but do you think he's the next, But,
God, I hope not. I don't want to wish any ill will on the guy, but it's.
I hope you forget to learn how to throw a football. Let's just say that.
It's just tough seeing Green Bay just constantly have a stud quarterback.
For real.
And maybe they just know how to pick him. But I think this year will tell us a lot more, obviously, if he is the real deal. Because last year was the first time he's starting, and he had a rough couple beginning games. Then they kind of turned it on, and he's making big plays. I mean, he got us on Thanksgiving, which almost ruins that holiday sometimes for me.
It really did ruin it.
But I think the Bears, they got to be going after Caleb Williams after that trade.
Well, they have to be, without question. Bringing guys like Keenan Allen. The GM for the Bears, dude, has seriously done really well. Outside of that trade, right. getting Keenan Allen, who's coming off maybe his best season ever for a fourth. Right. I wish that the Lions did that. Go get Keenan Allen for a fourth, dude. I wish we could have known.
Bananas.
But how obviously try and put your fandom aside a little bit. Obviously every year we're going to the Super Bowl. You could be the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
Guaranteed there are Panthers fans that are we're going to the Super Bowl next year, and it's no, you're not.
No.
Realistically, where do you feel the Lions are going to be next season? We're obviously guessing who you get in the draft and stuff, but if you were to say, if we were to watch this a year from now and try and be as accurate as possible, what do you think the Lions season is going to look like? Record, where they go in the playoffs, do they make the playoffs at all? Which I would highly doubt that they don't. But
right.
Where do you seriously think they're going to be?
I think as far as record, something similar to the last year. Only I'd say they're winning 13 games this year.
Go up a game.
But I also think it's going to be a lot more difficult to win that game, especially in the division with all these additions with the other teams that they've made. Keenan Allen. You get Caleb Williams. We'll see how he plays in the NFL. But I think
the Bears are the ultimate wild card in this.
I think divisional games are going to be a little bit more tough. I think their level of play is going to be higher. In competitive wise in that division, but I still think the NFC North. A lot of people are it's the Packers this year. People are sleeping on the Lions. I think it's still 100%. I think there's still a great chance that they take the NFC North again, and the playoffs. It's a tournament, so anything could happen.
Right.
It depends on injuries and how well the team's meshing, but it seems like the Lions always seem to pull it together at the end of the year.
Yeah.
They always get a little boost of, hey, here we are, and we're going to make a run for it. The last couple of years with Brad and Dan running the ship, and I'm pretty high up on this next year to see what they do. I know they got some tough away games, but they had tough away games last year, and they won.
Yeah. Are we feeling like we're getting to the point with the Lions where it's if you don't win the Super Bowl, it's a failure?
I hate to be. It's almost like Michigan.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, where it was we made the dance, but we lost that first game, and it was it's natty or bust.
Yeah.
I hate to say that about an NFL team that just got good, but
I feel like it has to be. We're almost at that point of like we make the NFC Championship, and like I feel like we've only really upgraded this team.
Right.
Do you feel like if obviously, and we're still happy if the Lions make the playoffs. We're not talking about like being the worst team in the league. Like any team is truly happy if their team continually wins.
Yeah.
49ers fans still have to be happy, even though they haven't won the whole thing. They keep getting there. Like your team is always good. Like you never have that bad.
Right.
Do you feel like and that's what I mean by that is more of the if you don't make it to the Super Bowl, you're like, dang man, like we were supposed to win it. Like that was just such a letdown.
Well, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think if the Lions beat the Niners, they are Super Bowl champs. They beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
I definitely think that's a real thing that could have happened. The Chiefs, whatever reason, they find the way to pull it out. But I think that the Lions, man, the Dan Campbell stuff scares me. And, obviously I'm not like a diehard Lions fan. Like I do like the Lions. I enjoy watching them with you guys. That type of stuff scares me because like it's, good if you get it.
Right.
Terrible if you don't,
right.
And you get the Monday night quarterbacks, on the shows that are like, oh yeah, bad decision, but if he makes the same decision and it works, it's like, he's a genius.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the Lions are in a big game, and obviously Dan's going to go for on fourth, just like any time. And like you said, it's going to be, oh, damn if he does, damn if he doesn't, and you live and die by that play, and I think you stay true to themselves. And a lot of times they've got wins out of it, and you stay true to the team, and you're gonna get rewards from it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the draft, trying to see who they grab. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they went edge, the best edge at that spot.
There's a couple good ones there too. Is the best part.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they grabbed a tackle.
You think they would go like wide receiver? Like if a Brian Thomas Jr. falls, you think that they would take a wide receiver?
I wouldn't put it past Brad Holmes. I mean, just based on last year's draft.
I do think that they've gotten themselves into a position that they take best player available where you have no idea what the heck they're going to. It's like the Packers, but they don't take best player available. They're just like, we will not take receiver.
Yeah.
Whatever. Punter over receiver in the first round. But, man, it's a good time to be a Lions fan. Obviously I started watching with you guys last year. I always kind of like watched them and rooted for them because I lived in Minnesota and stuff, so I didn't care about the Vikings all that much. But it's such an awesome time to be a Lions fan. I think it's a cool time for us to be able to do this because we do get to kind of watch the the coolness of being a Lions fan. Yeah. And man, seeing how many Lions fans take over stadiums, like when we went to Tampa, that was mind-blowing. It was all blue.
Yeah.
Obviously, Tampa's not a huge fan base in general. They are called the Succaneers. But I want to thank you for coming on, man. It was really fun. We're going to do this again. We were going to do it over Zoom, but it took us like 45 minutes to figure it out. It would not work, so we decided to do this. But I thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
you are awesome buddy to me, and I'm excited to keep doing this with you.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to the future of this, and can't wait to see what the Lions do and forward down the field.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Awesome. Thank you to Josiah for coming on to the podcast and talking Lions with me. You'll see a lot more of him, a lot more Chris in the upcoming episodes. I really do hope you enjoy. Please like, subscribe. I appreciate it so much. Have a good one. See you in the next one.